There's a silent struggle that women experience, a phenomenon that often goes unacknowledged. Not the overt issues like harassment, assault, or the glaring pay gap. Those are undeniable and real. What I'm referring to is more subtle. It's the unspoken calculations women make upon entering any given space. How to position themselves, how to express their ideas, how much room to occupy, whether to chuckle at a joke even if it falls flat, whether to remain silent because asserting oneself could label them as difficult, whether to wear a smile even against their will because not smiling risks being seen as cold. And here's the reality. Men don't perform these calculations, not in the same way, not with the same consistency, not as a necessary part of their everyday public existence. If you're a woman reading this, it's familiar territory. You've been doing this mental math your entire life. And if you're a man, there's a strong possibility you haven't even noticed, because you haven't had to. Let me share an incident from last week. I was in a professional meeting that, mind you, had a significant group of people in attendance. One woman made a well-considered suggestion, smart, insightful, and deserving of acknowledgement. But the room fell silent. The conversation shifted away from her, as if she hadn't said a word. And then, a mere 10 minutes later, a man chimed in with the exact same idea. And just like that, the collective response was enthusiastic. Great idea, let's pursue that. And what about the woman? She wore a smile, nodded in agreement, didn't utter the phrase, "I literally just said that," because she's been conditioned to understand that calling out this disparity might mark her as petty or difficult. So she absorbed it. And, crucially, no one noticed, except for the other women present in the room, who recognized this scenario, having lived it countless times before. This is humiliation at its core, not in loud, dramatic ways or through violent acts, but as a constant, almost quiet erosion of one's experiences in reality, where one's voice feels marginalized, where lived experiences seem to be brushed aside, where you become conditioned to minimize yourself for the comfort of others. And if you dare to do otherwise, if you occupy space, assert yourself, or refuse to wear a smile when it feels inappropriate, you get labeled as aggressive, difficult, too much. The system was never built with you in mind, and it drives that message home every single day. In such minor ways that proving them feels impossible, in ways so persistent that you might end up questioning your own perception. Maybe it's you, maybe you're overreacting, but you're not. Consider the words of philosopher Simone de Beauvoir, who famously remarked, "One is not born but rather becomes a woman." Her point? That being a woman transcends biology. It's a performance, a role meticulously taught from birth. While boys receive trucks, girls get dolls. They're encouraged to be pretty while boys are praised for their strength and assertiveness. Politeness is extolled in girls while boys are lauded for their boldness. Over the years, these lessons become internalized. You learn that your worth is intertwined with how you make those around you feel. Your body often feels like a rented space. Your anger is seen as something to temper. You come to believe that taking up room is inherently selfish. And eventually, as an adult, you stop questioning it. You simply start making those calculations. Constantly, automatically, often without a second thought. What's even more troubling is that it isn't just men who perpetuate this cycle. Women can also be complicit toward one another and within themselves. You begin monitoring your own behavior. You judge other women for not embodying femininity properly. You compete for male approval, often without conscious recognition. That's what you're doing. The system has embedded itself so deeply that it requires no overt enforcement. You've internalized it all. You're doing this to yourself, and therein lies the brilliance of the system. That's how patriarchy manages to endure, not through blatant oppression alone, but by weaving in a sense of complicity, making you believe that this is the way it should be, that it's natural or fair. Let's take a moment for reflection. When was the last time you as a woman fell into the trap of apologizing for something that wasn't your fault? Sorry, just want to squeeze by. Sorry, could I ask a question? Sorry, I know you're busy, but... Women seem to apologize as a reflex, for living, for wanting things, for simply taking up space. It's so automatic that it often slips by unnoticed. Imagine if men employed this level of apologetic behavior in their daily routines, apologizing for every word spoken, every entrance or exit, every request made. It would seem absurd, wouldn't it? So why is it deemed normal for women? Within philosophy, there's a notion termed the second sex. The concept speaks to how men are positioned as the default, the standard, the norm, while women are designated as the other, a derivative, something secondary. Once you recognize this framework, it becomes inescapably apparent. Medical research often targets male bodies, with findings assumed to apply to women indiscriminately. History books focus predominantly on male experiences, labeling it simply as human history. Even workplace dress codes tend to be established based on male comfort. Women are expected to wear heels and makeup, while men just arrive as they are. The societal framework was not sculpted with women in mind. It was formed by men, constructed for men, and women are left to adapt, to conform within structures that were never designed for their comfort. Now, let's talk about something awkward. If you're a man absorbing this perspective, you might feel defensive. It's tempting to respond with, "But I'm not like that," or "But men have their own challenges," or "But this isn't indicative of all men." And perhaps you're right. Maybe on an individual level, you've never intentionally belittled a woman. That's not the crux of the discussion. The real crux? You benefit from the very system that perpetuates these inequities. You navigate the world with a privilege you didn't earn, one that often goes unnoticed. You express yourself and find people listening attentively. You claim your space and there's little scrutiny of your presence. You can express anger and it's seen as passion, not hysteria. You don't do all the intricate calculations. That, my friend, is privilege. While it wasn't something you actively sought, it exists nonetheless. Pretending it isn't there doesn't erase it. It only makes you complicit. How do we move forward then? How do we dismantle structures so vast, so woven into our lives? I don't have a foolproof solution, but I have ideas. Firstly, start with awareness. Observe who speaks and who holds back. Note who interrupts versus who's interrupted. Identify who apologizes and who refrains from doing so. Pay attention to who takes space and who diminishes themselves. Shine a light on the invisible aspects of this dynamic. Once you recognize it, you cannot unsee it. Secondly, amplify voices. When a woman's contribution gets overlooked, restate her words, affirm her ideas, make room for her voice, not as a savior figure, but simply as a compassionate human. The third step is introspection. Are you interrupting someone? Are you assuming your experiences resonate universally with everyone? Are you inadvertently making someone else feel smaller in order to feel bigger? It's an uncomfortable reflection, but it's through discomfort that change is forged. Philosopher Immanuel Kant speaks of dignity, suggesting that every human possesses inherent worth. He advocated treating individuals as ends in themselves rather than mere means to an end. When you apply this principle to our present context, it becomes glaringly evident. The system often reduces women to mere tools, objects for male validation, convenience, or desire. They are cast as supporting characters in narratives that belong to others, not as full, autonomous human beings with their own dignity. Grasping that truth, really understanding it, can shift everything. Here's where my thoughts keep returning. This isn't merely about assigning blame to certain men or even specific women. It's about grasping that we're all navigating a current we didn't choose. And that current is toxic. It constrains us all. Men who feel they cannot express vulnerability, fearing it's synonymous with weakness. Women who feel stifled when expressing fortitude, regarding it as aggressive. Everyone caught in roles they didn't author. Acknowledging this requires us to stop pretending the current is acceptable. It demands that we abandon defenses of a flawed system, as admitting fault feels overwhelming or even daunting. We must cease saying that's just how it is, when the true meaning is often, that change would be hard. Wherever we stand on the timeline of societal evolution, the question of intent versus evolution arises. Did society's structure evolve to diminish women? Does designed imply a forethought that may not exist? Perhaps it's more accurate to state that systemic power structures, crafted by men, naturally positioned men at their center. Over centuries, these frameworks became so normalized that their existence faded into invisibility. But whether they were created with intention or simply evolved doesn't change the reality. What holds significance is that they exist. They're here, now. in professional environments, in personal interactions, in the countless subtle ways women are conditioned to downsize their presence every single day. So here's a question worth pondering. What ongoing calculation are you making right now, often without even realizing it? What aspect of your identity are you diminishing to fit into a space that was never designed with you in mind? And if you're not caught in that cycle, if you're moving through life without that constant negotiation, what does that reveal about whose world you currently inhabit? I don't possess all the answers, but I believe that grappling with these questions might matter more than we can fathom. Because the genesis of real change begins not with solutions, it starts with the act of seeing, truly seeing, what has long gone unnoticed,